WFC with me, Matt Crane. Development team special this evening, and I'm joined by John and Natalie. John, how are we doing?
Yeah, good, thank you, Matt. Not too bad. How are you?
Good. Yeah, not too bad, thanks. Yourself, Nat?
Yeah, I'm really good, Matt. Thanks for having us on, and it's a good topic. I like this topic.
Yeah, well, we've had a lot of people ask for it, so it was only right to obviously have yourself on, because I think you've probably, out of everybody, you've probably done the most sort of development team matches.
Me and Dave, I think.
Before we get into the show then, just obviously today's sort of breaking news that came out at 5 o'clock from Molly Hudson. We've been told, or we believe, that the club has done an investigation, or will be doing an investigation, into the amount of injuries that we've had and still currently have. We were told also as well that Alessia Russo has suffered a setback in training, and she's not going to be fit for, I don't know, a period of time now. So I just want to quickly just get your thoughts on that. Obviously, we'll start with yourself, Nax. I know how vocal you are on this on sort of Twitter, etc.
Yeah, Matt. I think once I saw Fuso was injured again, for me, that was it. I knew there was something wrong. They had to look into it. But I think they've been doing this behind our back, which, obviously, they're right that they're doing it, but they've done it without telling everyone. And now the sort of results are that due to all the players basically not having a pre-season, so Leslie coming in quarantine, Tobin and Kristen quarantine, Fuso was injured during pre-season, as was Lucy Stan, and they picked up the longest injuries, really. Leah, she's a bit injury prone anyway. They've sort of said that these players that have picked up the injuries, plus new players, will come in 3 weeks earlier and train and get used to the method. So for me, I think it's good. They have to come in earlier, so they're used to the, I think, hiya, Ben. Someone just said there, Sophie discovered me, higher press style, so I think they have to get fit before they even, so, the new players, they might be fit already, but this is how we play and this is how you need to get used to it. So hopefully that'll work. And I think she said something as well about, I've read it wrong, about squad depth or number of players. So, we might see a few coming in. We need it anyway. If we do get the Champions League, I think we need a bigger squad. But it's something that we've talked about anyway. So for me, it's a really good article by Molly. There's Asif did one, Asif Burton. He's a guy, friend of mine. But, Molly's a friend of this show's as well. So, definitely go and check their articles out. Tweeted some of it. Molly's put the full transcript out of the question that Casey answered. So, it's really good that we've got that. So definitely go and check out Molly Hudson's Twitter.
And yourself, John, obviously Natalie mentioned there about sort of getting players in 3 weeks beforehand. Do you think that could possibly solve it, or do you think there's maybe other factors as well sort of surrounding the injuries?
It'll definitely help, but I don't think that's the be all and end all. I do agree that coming from one team to another, you have to adapt and you have to adjust. I completely get that. I remember saying on a podcast about 3 or 4 weeks ago when I know Nat, I think he was raging over, I can't remember who it was. It was injured at the time. It was just 2 or 3 weeks ago. And you were saying there needs to be an internal investigation. And I think on that episode there, I remember saying, are we pushing them too hard in training? Or is it just the way that we play? It's more intense than what they're probably used to, or I don't know. I don't know what it actually is. That's obviously up to them guys to decide. But first of all, it's just real bad news for Alessia. Just as we think that she's coming back, and I don't think this is probably the first time. I think she was probably due back in January, and then maybe just before the international break, just after the international break, ready for Arsenal. It just seems to be dragging on and dragging on. But at the moment, there's just no sign of anything getting any better. And as soon as someone does get better, they go off again. So I'm glad that they're looking into it. I really am. But unfortunately, it doesn't mean anything just yet until they've looked into it and they've rectified it.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. I think I tweeted sort of when not long after this news was dropped about Alessia. I said, I think for me, I was just hoping that she wasn't rushed. I mean, obviously, we've all talked about, haven't we? About, new physio. Could it be that? Could it be changing the facilities? And I know, Nat, a few days ago, we had a big conversation, didn't we? I think you might have been involved, John. There was a few of us sort of pointing out different theories. And I think, like you say, it's one of them where it could have been, I mean, it might not have been, but it could have been desperate and we could have rushed it and then she suffered a setback. I mean, could be completely off with that. But it is frustrating because, you know, another thing I said was, had we not had these injuries, I fully believe we'd still be challenging for first place. And I think that it's hampered us so much now where we're literally down to bare bones. We've literally got like Jess is the only fit forward and I think Jane as well. Not even sure if Kristen's back for tomorrow's game, but going to move on. Development squad. So what I'll do is, Nat, I'll sort of get you to kind of introduce it, maybe just talk a little bit about this season, because obviously we had the 9-0 win against Birmingham City a few days back. And then last night we also won 3-1 against Liverpool. So do you just want to have a brief chat to the viewers about that then?
Yeah, so the devs have been off pretty much, and this is their season just starting again. I mean, we've had a few friendlies, you know, when the lockdown one was opened, but we've never really started, and this is the season really starting. So we two games that Matt's just talked about, 9-0 against Birmingham, absolutely amazing. That's the biggest result that these girls have had in the league ever, you know, for the development team. So it's fantastic. And, you know, it wasn't like a lot of strikers really scored. It was more, you know, the midfielders, Phoebe Holland, who's a right winger / right back, right fullback. She bagged a hat trick. Chloe Broughton scored, who's a defender. So it's like all the goals are being shared out across the team, which is really good to see. I think, you know, they've been together 2 years now, this team. It was first, you know, the academy was first initially formed last year during COVID, and just before they locked down, they were getting into a rhythm where they were winning a lot more. So for me, this is, you know, they've come back during, you know, when the lockdown one was lifted, can't keep up, but then they were stopped. But we've got them back quick. And I think we were one of the first definitely to get back training after lockdown one. But then we were one of the first, I know with Brighton, that we got them back and got them elite, you know, got them in their bubble, got tested. Now I think they can move up and down the bubble. I know we're going to talk about Tara and Carrie, who are now sort of pretty much in the first team, you know. Carrie came on, but you know, there's still quality players throughout that team. Last night, I don't know a lot. If anyone saw my tweet, it's M Sanders, who's a friend of the show as well, tweeted out that we won 3-1 against Liverpool. Liverpool had a very strong team, I believe, but I think we had a lot of under-16s playing. I know a lot of under-16s have come up this season, and whether that's just because Tara and Carrie and people are going up to the first team, so you're seeing that progression. So they know that the pathway's there. And it's really important, I think, because, you know, for me, to these kids, under 16s, and they're playing in an under 21 league. And yeah, not a lot of the teams are, you know, 20 or anything, but, you know, they're playing against 18-year-olds, probably a lot of them 18, 19, you know, and they're under 16. So you're looking at 16, 15, and they're still doing really well and holding their own against, you know, a Liverpool team that even though people know about the first team at Liverpool, they do put a lot of money and they have a lot of resources for their devs team. Do they play the same high press? It's hard. I'd say they do. It's weird. Poppy Lawson, that's someone who's a captain, and I think she's been out injured, Ben, a lot this season. I've not seen her name. I know she didn't play. I've not seen her versus she wasn't playing in the 9-0, so I think she's been injured. But she's a quality centre-back. She's someone I look at, Poppy, and think she reminds me of Amy T in the way that she tackles. She's tough tackling, so maybe she's picked up an injury as we're talking about it. But in terms of the devs, for me, when I watch them, it's more about like watching what they do and how they play as a team rather than I want them to win this many. So obviously I was so buzzing when they won 9-0, but it's not about the results when you watch them. It's about seeing players getting better year on year, you know, and that's what I'm seeing, like Ben saying Poppy, and I'm buzzing about Tara Bourne, who's in the first team, because for me, when she first came in January, so she only had about 3 months with us, but the fact she's training up and she's still training up, and yes, she's not had her debut, but, you know, she is an absolute quality, because by March, and she was only there from January, bear in mind, she was absolutely different class. And the game before we all locked down, it was versus City, and she absolutely dominated that game. Dominated it. Scored a goal from, I'd say, the halfway line, really. A free kick, and she just chipped it over the keeper, and she was spraying balls about, and she is absolutely different class. And you see how tall she is. She's strong. For me, I think she's going to be a class player. I know we're going to go on to her, and I know John will give his opinion, but Carrie as well. When I first saw her, I only saw her recently in the academy, in the friendlies, and the way that she plays is that's her running. And I'm telling you, Casey will love that, because look at Tooney playing now. That's the same way. And, Casey will love that. And for me, I can't see them two coming back down now. I think that's it. They're there. I can, the club, they probably already signed contracts and we don't know, but one of them two or both of them two will be, and I can't see them not letting any of them go. So I can see them getting full-time professional contracts soon, whether that's in the summer or who knows, any minute now. But them two are absolutely different class. But so is a lot of players, and happy to talk about any players.
Yeah, absolutely. John, I'm going to come to you, a couple of questions. So the first one Natalie talked about was obviously the idea of the focus being on not as much results, but more development, which is obviously the whole kind of point of the league, and especially at Man United. So my first question will be thoughts on that. And then secondly as well, she also mentioned about the testing. And what I do know is that obviously in that development league, not all teams are tested and not all teams are classed as elite. So obviously second question would be, do you think that helps going forward, especially this season? Because obviously, with so many things like, for example, third tier downwards being cancelled, it's obviously important for them players to not further lose any development going forward, especially having last season cancelled.
Yeah, let's take the results first. So I don't go to any of the Devs games just yet. Hopefully I will be next season, but I do go to the men's academy games, and I do watch the under-23s, and I love watching the academy games purely because you do get to see the stars of the future. Now, yes, it's disappointing when you're driving home and you've lost the game, but to me, the season that I went, it was when Brandon Williams and the likes of Garner was playing for the under-23s, and both of those are shining now. So for me, it is all about their playing style, about them trying to impress and making their next step, whether it be on loan or to come into that first team. And regarding the devs on the women's side, I really do think it's really important that all they do is just impress Casey by one way or the other. So that could be down to their personal attitude. So they might lose the game, but if they've done everything that they can personally do, then Casey will say, oh, yeah, she's done well. Okay, we lost the game because of the other 5 players on the other side of the pitch, but this one particular person has all the attributes that we need in the senior team. So, yeah, I think it's all about just trying to make a name for yourself. Obviously, you learn your discipline, start playing for the club, see what it actually means. But there's 2 things that Natalie mentioned that I wanted to jump on as well. She mentioned pathway and progression, and the progression is there. You can see the fact that Casey has seen her youngsters from the first season, and she's kept a lot of them, and now they're our starters. And I'm talking about the likes of Tooney and Hansen, just to name 2. And the pathway is there, the progression's there. So for me, I just think it's brilliant. It's me and Matt mentioned before we come live that it's the United way, and that is what it is. And it's great to see, even though that we're bringing superstars in, and even though we're getting experienced players in, we're also showing that we're a team where if you are good enough, it doesn't matter what your age is or where you're born, you'll have your opportunity at Man United. Second question regarding the testing. I don't know much about it, to be honest, but for me, it is something that we need to be looking at, because the amount of times now that the season keeps stopping and starting, and we talk about the finance, not having the finance to test that like age group or those tiers, it is wrong, because they just don't know if they're coming or going. There was someone on my Twitter who I follow, my local team, Stourbridge, and they're going through it again now for the second season running. The top of the league, and they can't do anything. It's just null and void again, all because of obviously things could have been done differently. But I'll let you guys talk more about testing because you guys probably know a bit more about it than I do.
Yeah, I think for me, so obviously the way it works is obviously they are tested twice a week, like the first team, and I think it's just good because, like I said, not every team is elite in terms of the development, and like Nat said, there's now a clear pathway. And I think for me, what's good is that you look at the RTC, and if you were a player, and I mean, when they're sort of talking like 7-8-year-old, they've probably got more than one offer. Now, obviously, if you can see a clear pathway, you can see, right, I'll be in the RTC till I'm 16, and then there's a chance to progress. And the coaching's good, and that, I mean, obviously in a few years' time, hopefully when we're over all this sort of Corona stuff, it'll be easier. But at the minute, players can see that, right, well, I will be looked after, I will be tested. I know that, now I can still play and I can still train, having missed 4 or 5 months of last season. And now, obviously, they're in a competitive league. Because I know, Nat, we talked about, didn't we? Season 1 wasn't really sort of competitive. So I don't know if you want to sort of expand on that as well, and just maybe give an insight to the viewers.
Yeah, basically, I call it the development squad, and that's what they're sort of called in the lower tiers, tier 3, tier 4. They're called development squad, and I think it's just basically there's not really a league. Like we have, like, it's actually the Man United Women Academy. But I think when we first joined in 2018, set up our women's team, we just sort of didn't think of the academy or below, but it was too busy setting up the first team, never mind the academy. And I think we were too late to join the league, the academy league that has been going since 2018. I think it's been going that long, but we were too late to join that. And we just ended up keeping the RTC together. So the under-16s just stepped up, and it was sort of like a mix and match of players who sort of came back and players who this. But from 2019, that's when we set up like the real academy. I know in 2018 it was just friendlies and an FA Cup. We actually got to the final of the FA Cup, which was actually really good. There's players. I don't know if there's players. Yes, there is. Fran Staples played or was on the bench. But I think she was 16 then, and now she must be coming up to 18. And she played on the bench versus Arsenal. Unfortunately, we lost. But, Arsenal, it's our first year all together properly. And, getting to an FA Cup final was really good for the girls. And then last year, Charlotte Healy came in. She's the manager of the under-21 team, and that's when we were in the league first time properly. They got beat in the cup, but they were going through. They were due to make the final actually of the plate. So basically, if you get beat in the youth cup, like the FA Cup, you go through to something called the plate, which is like the League Cup, like an alternative cup, like Europa League kind of thing. So we were in that. We were due to make the final of that, but then obviously it all sort of shut down. But Tara, I know that's not someone that a lot of people talk about. She came in, so it's someone who Healy brought in from Liverpool Devs. I think she was she was at Liverpool Devs in the January of last year. And like I said, she had 3 months with us, and she was absolutely looking quality. And then obviously it was shut down. Carrie, she's someone that's come in this summer that I think probably between Healy and Casey and Martin have looked at her and brought her in from, I think, Cardiff, we said, yeah. And she's had her time in the development, but now obviously Casey likes her, Casey's playing her. And like I said, I can see her getting a contract soon. I can see Ben sort of saying about our RTC as a top one. And I think, we are treating the girls, the under-21 girls, definitely the same as the boys. And I think, there's a lot of teams that you think that are very established and, that we'd look at in terms of the way they're doing their first team and think, oh, that's great. That's where we want to be. And it's not the same for the development team. Like I said, our girls were the first one training again. One of the first ones back on the pitch again after lockdown, elite protocols, doing the testing again. So for me, it's not just when people think about, oh, they're not testing, they might think like Birmingham or this. It's not. it's not those teams. It's the higher echelon teams, let's say, that are not sort of maybe where you would expect for women's football. And you look at us, and yes, I've heard people moaning, oh, she's not bringing through this, naming names and stuff. And for me, it's more about the development, like I said, of this team. She's given chances to Rebecca May. She's given the chance to Carrie now. I can definitely see Carrie, like I say, doing things. And for me, I think everyone needs to be patient with what she's doing and who she's bringing through, and the timing when she does it is important as well. I think I watch a lot of it and I get excited, and it's normal to get excited over players. I know a lot of people now are getting excited over Karna Solskjaer. You're bound to get excited. Yeah, she looks like a different player. She's one who came in actually as well, that Charlotte Healy brought in from the start of the last season, and she's needed a lot of development. And you wouldn't have, she wasn't a name that we were calling last year, but now she scored a few at the start, and I've seen people on Twitter bigging her up. I'm not saying that she can't do it, but she needs time. Yeah, so just give her that time. And the more you rush these players, and I've seen it myself in saying some people's names, and the more you rush players, just let them develop. And Casey knows what she's doing. I think we've seen it with them girls being on the bench and still training up. You've got to work hard to get it. It doesn't just come. Talent is so much. You've got to work hard. Casey's even said, if you don't defend in my team, you won't get on. So they'll know what they need to do. It's just about them, I suppose, listening to Charlotte, listening to Casey. I know that they have sort of meetings with Charlotte and with Casey, and I know it used to be Ian, but it probably is Martin now, because he actually came in through the development team, so he'll know. So that'll be another sort of feather in the bow that he used to train them. Now he's training the first team. So for me, it's about listening to all the advice that's given, definitely from Casey, and not from outside or others or me screaming in the pitch. Listen to the managers. Don't listen to the fans bigging you up. Do what the gaffer says. Yeah,
absolutely. I think the thing. I mean, I remember talking to last year, Nat, about Martin, and I think I spotted him. I think it was actually one of David's photos, and I spotted him and said, "Oh, is that Martin?" You're like, yeah. And I think for me, I mean, I'd come across him before, and I know how good a coach he is. So to see him sort of, come from first team football, because for those that don't know Martin, he was Everton's assistant manager for a number of years. For him to sort of come to the development squad for me was massive, because I just thought, wow, the guy's kind of, step down a level, which can only benefit our development players. And I think, like you say, it's going to be important, because that link in between the development team and the first team, obviously it's a big jump. But having somebody there like Martin, and obviously, like you said, there will be chats between Charlotte and Casey as well. It's just, for me, it's consistent, and it's like it just makes it easier to sort of, progress and sort of link between the two, because you've got that clear structure like we talked about before. I think another thing you sort of mentioned as well, which is good, was obviously, and I've got the comment on screen, they do need time to develop. Like we said earlier, development squad is pretty much what it says it is. I think at the minute, like I say, I do under 18s, and we're not too fussed about results. I mean, yes, the winning's great, absolutely, and we don't obviously turn up to lose, but it's like you say, it's turning up, it's putting in the hard work, it's the diet, it's the willingness to train extra when you're not told, oh, it's a day off today, do you go and train? It's the mentality. For me, attitude is a big part of it. I think, especially when you're young, and like you say, it's easy for sort of fans, because they want to see their own, to hype players up, and then players are like, yeah, play me, and all. You know what it's like when you're young. But I think for me, is that attitude for me is absolutely massive. And we've seen in the first team as well, Casey's not taking any rubbish off players. And, if their attitude's been bad, we've seen them binned off. I'm sure I don't need to mention names, but, so moving on, obviously, John, I'm going to sort of let you talk about that. Obviously, just follow up from what Nat said about sort of, the need for the specific development, the Man United way. Anything you want to add on Martin as well?
Yeah, so first of all, I just want to touch on that comment there. I know Vic has mentioned physically develop. I completely get that. But also just time to develop in general, because if this was two or three seasons ago, it would have been a lot easier, I think, to have got into our championship side against part-timers, as opposed to now, if you're going to come into our first 11, you're expected to win now. And next season, you're expected to win and push for the title potentially, or play in Europe. So the jump is even more massive. And that's what frustrates me sometimes with the fans, where we saw Mengi sign a contract this week. And now he's already in people's heads. Oh, yeah, he's going to be one of our centre-backs the next year or two. Yeah, he might be. But in the first 6 weeks or so, if he doesn't if he doesn't do very well, don't shoot him down. Just like give him another 6 months. There's no rush. People want results right away. So when these youngsters come through, if they don't hit the ground running, I do feel for them, because sometimes the fan base they get let down, but then they don't forget, and it's a shame. So what we know what we know Casey's good at is we know that she knows what's right for the players, what's best for the players. So yeah, we've seen Carrie play last week, or a couple of weeks ago, whatever it was, and which is great. She's had a bit of game time. Hopefully she'll get a bit more game time, but let's not put pressure on these players to come straight in the first 11, because one, there's no need to, and two, we like feed them to the wolves, so to speak. So give them time, and let them develop. Maybe even send them out on loan first, get a bit more game time there. Look, there's nothing more that I would love to see two or three of these youngsters come through next season. But if they don't, that's not a bad thing, because look at the standard that we're going to be playing at next season. Let's not, like I say, just don't rush them. Just look after them first. They're still young.
Yeah, I think we've seen sort of in the men's team, haven't we? I mean, a good example for me is Axel. The amount of abuse I've seen has been ridiculous recently. And, it's taken him. He came in and then he had his loaned into last year. Was it Villa he went to?
He went to Villa 2 years ago. It was brilliant. But then obviously, because he was brilliant there, that's brilliant now. He's going to take us to the Champions League. But it's not that easy.
People expect too much. Yeah, absolutely. Natalie, I can see you. You're eager, so go on.
Yeah, I think I'm one of these people. I mean, I remember Carrie made a debut and my internet started messing up, so I didn't see it. And I was like, make a fan cam. All it is a minute of her running around, but I just love it. I love to see it. I love to see that energy. And I'm not then expecting her to go and score the winner tomorrow against Arsenal. Not a chance. No. I mean, it'd be great if she could get some minutes versus Arsenal, but even then, I'm not even expecting her to get minutes, even if just her and Tara still being on the bench would be great. But even then, with LJ back, with this back, with it being the game that it is, I'm not even expecting them on the bench. Even just to travel down with a squad, that'll be good for them. And I think they're sort of doing that. I know you touched on loan, and we've just seen last night, and she's someone that loans all our players, Carla Ward. 2 of Birmingham's scorers were Emily Murphy from Chelsea and Ruby May from Arsenal. And for me, I would be giving our players to Carla because she has done it. I know I pick her up on every little podcast that I'm on, but she's done it. She's shown that she can do it with, she had Ebony. Look at Ebony now. Nom still smashing it in the Championship. Palmer's playing for, Bristol, and they're looking like decent. So for me, I think, those were more first team players. But, someone like Carrie or Tara next year, if Carla's at Birmingham and she needs players, she's utilising the loan system. And that's someone that I trust with our players, that's shown they can, develop our players. And like John says, put them out on loan. But I know Casey likes to put her kids in the Championship so that she can still have them in training, which I think is really good. I know Maria Edwards is in the Championship now at Blackburn, but I don't know if she goes between training still, because I know she was training with the devs, so I don't know if she still goes between that with everything with COVID. But, when all this is over, hopefully she can go back to that and she can put players through the Championship, because, like you say, Casey, I don't think likes to give up that much control of it. I think she likes to still have them with her training, but then gets that game time at
because
Championship.
let's not forget the reason why they go out on loan. It's not because of the team that they're going to. It's for their own development. So Casey's there. He wants to say, okay, how is this person progressing? And if they're not going down the route that she wants them to go down, then nowadays she'll bring them back, or she'll try and do something about it. Because at the end of the day, we're sending our players to somebody else to help our players. Yeah, okay, it'll benefit the other club as well. We get that. But from Casey's point of view, she's got to look after her own, hasn't she? So I think it's great. The fact that you can be on loan and still do training at our ground is great.
Yeah.
There's actually a name for that for those that may not know but may be interested to know. Dual contract. So people may have read before. I think we might have had a conversation on this, Nat, when sort of Fran Bentley was loaned out, because there is something. Did she go to Fylde briefly for a month? Before Sheffield United last year. So basically the dual contract allows them to train with us full time but play the games for their loan club. And obviously you mentioned Ruby Mace at Birmingham. That's something she's on. She's able to still feature for Arsenal's development side and train fully pro, which is what they need. And obviously I know we sort of talked about, haven't we, in the past, Nat, even prior to Maria going to Blackburn, we sort of said, we saw her in Oslo and we were like, how great would it to get her out on loan. And I think the Championship is a brilliant league for that because it's physical. You've got your Durhams who don't play football, who just kick you. And I think it's important that they do learn to cope with the physicality, because once you get to the big time, and like you both said, sort of pushing for league titles and trophies and Champions Leagues, it's not going to be easy. But I think it's one of them where they've got to obviously play it, safe. I know we saw it up here and Vic's talked about obviously mental health. And I think for me, it's kind of not throwing them too far out the comfort zone where it does affect them mentally. It's great loaning them out, but if they're not ready for a loan, for me, we've got to look at that. But I think, it's something definitely, and I know, Nat, you touched on Carla, brilliant. Again, maybe next year that might be something we might say, right, to Maria, you've done okay at Blackburn this year. Now let's step it up a league. And I think that the loan market for development players can be massive. Obviously, we'd need to factor in we still need a squad of development players. But again, you said earlier about Carrie and Tara travelling with the first team. What an experience. Even if, like you say, they're not making the bench, they're in that environment, they're watching, the Christens, the Tobins, the people that have been there for years and prepared for numerous hundreds of games throughout the career that will know what it takes. And like I say, it's just the whole environment for them is absolutely brilliant. The only issue we've got in terms of the first team is that daft rule where if they've been part of, a couple of match day squads or appeared twice off the bench, we have to register them. And I think for me, that's last year maybe why we didn't see more of Rebecca May. And I'm going to sort of come on to those players now, sort of the likes of her and obviously Carrie, who obviously made a debut a couple of weeks ago. So I'll come with you first, John. Obviously, we've had, like we say, we saw Maria Edwards out in Oslo. We've seen Carrie. How pleasing, obviously we love seeing players come through. How pleasing is them to sort of see them come through and sort of just kind of take to it really well? Obviously, they could have come in and had an absolute nightmare, but the fact that these players have come in and been given a chance and they've done absolutely brilliant with it.
Yeah, I remember watching that game on my dad's iPad in my dad's caravan in Worcester when Maria Edwards came on, and I was really looking forward to the matches. Obviously, the results weren't going our way. I get that. So for me, the most exciting part of that whole tour was seeing Maria Edwards, and I was there shouting away, saying, "Oh yeah, brilliant, bringing our youth through." And yeah, it's great to see. You can see that Casey again doing the right thing. It's like you don't need to bring these players on if you don't want to. The squad's big enough, but she's choosing to do it. It's almost like as doing it for like the fans, even though she's not, because she's doing it for their development. But again, it's another one where Casey's on the same wavelength as the fans, who's on a Man United wavelength. So yeah, for me, it was great to see Maria. It's a shame we haven't seen more of her, to be honest, because we haven't really seen much of her at all back in a Man United shirt since then. But obviously, she's got other things going on at Blackburn, which is great. So as long as she's doing well there, that's the main thing at the moment. But I would definitely like to see more of her because it's that kind of position on the pitch that I like. But a point there is, which I was going to bring in a bit later, but I'll bring it in now. All these players that potentially are good enough, maybe, to not break in, but good enough to perform at this level, are there actually any vacancies, so to speak, in that starting 11 in that position. So, for example, Maria Edwards, she might be the best dev that we've got, but if we've already got plenty of players in that position in the team at the moment, in the senior team, it's just a shame for her that she might miss out for a little bit. Is that where we start sending them on loan potentially?
Yeah.
As for Carrie, yeah, she definitely made the most of her 5-10 minutes the other day. Brilliant to see. And I also enjoyed seeing all the fellow teammates getting behind on social media the following day, the same day. Brilliant team spirit. Again, something that they don't need to do, but the players obviously really care about each other to do that. Giving them a bit of like an arm around the shoulder and say, look, well done, you've done really well today. Let's big you up and just give them that encouragement. Again, it's a united way. There's no animosity, no jealousy there. Matt, I forgot what your question was. What was it again?
No, we were just talking obviously about it's great to see that these players have sort of come through and kind of, like I say, taken to it well, because obviously you touched on it there. It was great to see the first team players bigging up somebody, that is a development team player, but is also training with the first team and is now seen as a first teamer. So just kind of touching on that, because something I'm going to sort of move on to this now, because obviously I'm looking at time ticking. We've sort of seen, haven't we, Nat, some, and I mean, I don't want to put pressure on and say to, give me names. And John talked about finding room in the squad, but we have seen, haven't we, recently, for example, if I say Charlotte Newsham, where she's had to move on. And I know from sort of experience that Tooney, when she went to them down the road, she did end up in the development team, and then she had to leave, again, to get that first team football. Same for Fran Bentley, Poppy Pattinson as well. Do you think then that might be obviously the way for some youngsters? I mean, there's always sort of potential, isn't there, for them to come back, but it's like we touched on before, it's about going out there now and getting them games and sort of building that, shall we say, footballing knowledge and footballing skill set.
Yeah, because for me, you look at some of them 18, 19, 20, you're going to want to be playing. And like John says, if you've got Tobin, if you've got Kristen, if you've got Leah, if you've got this one, and then potentially we're going to bring in more players for the Champions League. And yes, you can be that squad player, but, some people will leave the development team and, but what a resume to have behind you, Man United. Casey was probably put in good words for you, make sure that you're all right. With Newsham, I don't want to sort of tell her business, but, it happened. She had to leave for reasons, related to her, and that's okay. But, I know that if she, needed support, I know that they could rely on Charlotte Healy and Casey for that. And that's what it is about Man United. It's always like you're always part of the family. Even Casey says it about the first team, but I don't think she doesn't mean it about the development team either. And the thing is, though, we're talking about, pushing. We talked a bit about, now Carrie and Tara might be considered first team. So there's a space there. And who's then going to come through under 16s? So for me, even if players then leave our development squad, it's not so, it's good for them, because obviously we all want what's best for them. And if they want to go and play first team football, that'll be great. There's some players that left even the very, very first year, 2018 into 19, and there's players that left 19 into 20. So, of course, there's going to be players that leave 20 into 21, but then that leaves space for either, Healy to bring in someone to recruit, because she's recruited about 2 or 3. Sophie Hillard, the goalkeeper, she came in from Bristol, so there's that. But then you want to see the players coming through the under 16s, and recently a lot of under 16 players have been playing, like I said. So for me, the fact that the under 16s are coming in and doing well against, playing up really, that they've had to due to COVID, due to what's going on and all this. So for me, I think that's just something that's going to keep on coming. There's kids in the under 16s that were getting called up for, under 18s England. And, I think it was under 18s or under 17s England, but it's, playing up. Ben sort of said it before, our academy is elite. And I think now we're going to see the benefit, because when we didn't have that women's team, we were losing all these players. She's brought them all, a lot of them back in, but there's absolutely world-class players that have gone out there that we've not had. And, now we're going to see them. Now we're going to play. And I think that everyone as well is looking at playing at United's academy. Because like I said, there's Sophie who came from Bristol, there's Tara who came from Liverpool, there's Carrie who come from Cardiff, and they've all played up. They're all playing in first team. You know, they've all had that first team experience. So it just shows for me, yeah, you can go in Chelsea and this and that, and yeah, you probably will get your chance. You know, like I said, Murphy and Jamie Lee, their play, they've had their a couple of chances. But for me, I think we've shown ourselves as bang, that pathway's there, and you'll get looked after. So you know, so 7-year-olds will be looking and thinking, oh, if I've got an RTC, bang, Man United. But also the ones that are like 16, 18 will think, bang, let me go in that academy. Let me get the coaching, the development, you know, because when Charlotte first started, it was just her and one other guy. Then they brought in Martin. Then they've got this. Then they've got their own S&C. Then they've got their own physio. So for me, it's just they've got their own goalkeeper coach. They've got their own this. So it's growing. And I mean, hopefully, I know John sort of said he was the guy who sort of watches the academy. LSV he goes to, but hopefully people might be able to come and watch it when it's back, but hopefully they'll get it on telly as well, because I think that's a massive thing. But it's just about everyone remaining patient. You know, we all want to see our little baby goats and baby new players and this, but just know that they'll come. And I'm the worst for it. I hype up these girls like nothing. So
yeah,
but I still want them to believe in. Listen to Casey and listen to Charlotte rather than the fans and saying this and that.
To be fair, though, they did enjoy your little pre-match banter with the City fans. I remember.
They loved it.
I remember turning round at the ticket office in that City FA Cup game, and there was 20 devs all behind me. Go on, Natalie, and I turned around. I'm like, oh, they loved it. Sorry, go on, John. I know I jumped in.
Yeah, just a quick one. I think we also have to kind of get at the mentality as well of if players at the age of 16 or 18 doesn't stay in the club, it's not necessarily a bad thing. That they're moving, hopefully that they're moving to improve them so they can come back.
Yeah,
and just touching on that. So I work in retail, so nothing to do with football, but I worked in the same company from the age of 18 to 27. After 5 years, I wanted to become a manager in the store that I was at. It was a big store. And I wasn't good enough. I was basically told that I wasn't good enough and there was no vacancy for me. So I had to move out of that shop, go to a smaller shop where I become a manager for the first time. That gave me some experience. I then moved to another shop, a brand new shop, a new store opening, which was a good thing. And then I eventually ended my career back at the same shop that I started at for them 5 years. And I was a much better manager for it. So sometimes it's not a bad thing just to move away for a few years because you come back. And you do come back better, hopefully. That's the
I would have said on that. I have seen a lot of people criticizing Casey for like what you said, for the certain players leaving, you know, and people don't know the situations with everyone. I mean, even if you see a first team player, we don't know the situation. So, you know, I get upset when I see players leave, but like you say, just because they're leaving at 18 or whatever doesn't mean that's the end of the Man United journey. And you know, just let them go and do what they've got to do. And, you know, like you say, if it's going to be, that it's going to be.
I think a prime example in that would be Arsenal. I mean, I know we've talked about, haven't we, me, yourself, and a couple of others, you know, Arsenal, when you look at that reserve side that beat us 5-0 at Loughborough, you had the likes of Paige Bailey-Gale, and she's, you know, had to leave to get experience, and she's now smashing it, you know. In the past, we've had Lauren James, and, you know, Lauren was somebody I saw, I think she was 15 at the time. She was in the Conti Cup final when Arsenal played City, and Tooney was down there as a young player. And like I say, LJ was actually on the bench, age 15. I think, like you say, sometimes it is, you know, you could leave at 16, 17, and you could still end up back there in 5 years' time and still be a young player at sort of, you know, 22. And like I mentioned before, you know, some of them have had to do that, whether that be, you know, like I say, if we reference again, Poppy Pattinson, Tooney's done it, you know, even Newsham, because Newsham was at City before us, had to leave, come to us, and it can be sort of merry-go-round, can't it? Which obviously sometimes people, like you say, it does get disappointing, but there's not only football reasons, but some of it might be personal reasons. I think a lot of the time people seem to forget that these sort of 15, 16, 17-year-old kids, and some of them moving halfway across England, you know, away from family. A lot of them don't drive, so it's not like at weekend they can just nip down in the car, obviously in normal circumstances, nip down in the car to see sort of family and friends. And it's a big commitment. You know, people don't sort of realise the sacrifice that these players make. And again, I can sort of draw experience with Tooney on that. You know, age 15, she was in Blackburn's first team. And it was like, oh, well, I can't go and socialise with my mates, and I can't go and, you know, she's missed so many big, you know, christenings, weddings, things like that, so many big things, birthdays. And that's kind of, you know, the sacrifice that you make. Just before we wrap it then, have we sort of any final things that we want to sort of add in or give to the viewers? From either of you?
Just, you know, like you say, it's great. I'm absolutely delighted. Beat Liverpool, won 9-0, shooting up that reserve table. I hope that we win the league. You know, Villa reserves are very, very good. So if people might think, oh, Aston Villa are rubbish, but their development squad is absolutely
reserves.
one of the best. So just because it's a name, you know, that we usually beat on a Sunday, the first team, doesn't mean that, you know, actually Birmingham reserves are really good as well. So
yeah,
you know, just be mindful when you're watching it. Yes, we want to see Kerry. Yes, we want to see Tari. Yes, we want to see more players coming through, but it will do it. It'll be slowly. And, you know, I think just the way that she's done it this year is one of the best, to be honest, because I think it's sort of been forcing her that they have to train in the bubble kind of thing. But I prefer it that they're in it. They're there. They're always there with that squad now. And, you know, like I said, it's allowed these under-16s to come up that are doing really well and scoring goals as part of a 9-0 win. Imagine what it does for them, training up and playing with them. So for me, it's sort of, you know, yes, they've lost a lot of their season and we don't want them to lose anymore, but it's done them well this COVID time. And, you know, even playing behind closed doors, it's something that they've never experienced. They've always had their friends and family there, and it's the first time that they're experiencing that. And, you know, hopefully, you know, some parents might go back or whatever, and, you know, there might be a few, one or two, I don't know. I don't want to say what's going to happen, but, you know, hopefully when normality returns, you know, people can either come watch it or they get it on telly or they report about it more, because I think we do need to know who's coming through and it's important. But at the same time, I don't want no pressure on any of them at all.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, hopefully, I'm hoping if we can have Champions League wrapped up before the end of the season, mathematically, then, you know, you never know. You might see both of those players, or even, you know, three of them get some more minutes, and hopefully sort of more than five. But like you say, I think it's a process. I'm cautious of time. Obviously, I know the men's is kicking off in 10 minutes, and people will be saying, "Oh, you told me it was 45." So before people come for me in the tweets and the DMs, just want to do a quick social shout out where you can be found, and obviously then I'll briefly explain the next show.
Yeah, my Twitter is on screen, John Foster MUFC, and obviously if you're on this account, then you'll know that we've got a YouTube channel as well on All For United.
Yeah,
Natalie_17, as you can see, just hit me up, and I'm linked into the tweets on this chat on this page.
Yeah, Natalie's a development expert, so any tweets, tweets, direct them to Nat first. Yeah, that's it from us three. I can be found at MattCrane15 as well. Like I say, you know, we always love doing these shows, not only, you know, for ourselves to talk about the team we love, but for obviously you guys tuning in as well. We are back Saturday with a double header. We have John, you are 7 till 8, aren't you? On a match reaction to sort of discuss the Arsenal result tomorrow. Fingers crossed that's 3 points. Then after that, myself and Ben's got his work cut out with 2 shows. We're on 8:15 with our usual Saturday night takeaway. So keep obviously your eyes peeled. We will update the schedule. Everything's always pinned to make it as easy as possible for you guys. And thanks for tuning in. Cheers, guys.